get that Dante's boxing.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Finally, I can play.
What up?
What's going on, Tim? Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? First things first, I want to say the reason why I'm doing this video so late is because I've been doing my boxing business, traveling back and forth. Matter of fact, I'm in California right now. Just left the Bradley versus Vargas press conference, and that's the reason why I'm doing this post-fight video so late. Let's get to business. Congratulations to Gennady Golovkin. Had a 6-round TKO, I believe, over Willie Monroe. Now, and I would have to say, I'm feeling pretty good myself because this fight played out pretty much the way I said it would play out in my prediction video. I predicted that Gennady Golovkin would win the fight. I believe I predicted he would knock out Willie Monroe. But I also predicted and suspected Willie Monroe, even in defeat, he would slightly expose Gennady Golovkin to a certain extent. Allow me to explain. Now, I said in that prediction video, there are times where you can win a fight, but yet at the same time, your stock slightly goes down. And when I say stock, I don't mean financial and how many people are going to show up and watch Golovkin's next fight. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the confidence stock, meaning how much confidence boxing fans have in Gennady Golovkin's ability. Let's take Brandon Rios, for example. Now, I think we all knew Brandon Rios was never going to be pound for pound the best fighter in the world. He was never going to be the Michael Jordan of the sport. But there was a time when he was undefeated, I'm talking about years back, where you at least looked at him as a serious player in the sport. But when Brandon Rios fought against Cuban fighter Richard Abreu, I believe his name was, Brandon Rios, even though he got the decision that a lot of people didn't think he deserved, his stock went down. Because a lot of boxing fans felt that he was exposed that night. When Canelo Alvarez fought against Erislandy Lara, forget about Mayweather, we're not even going to mention that fight. When Canelo fought against Lara, his stock went down. A lot of fans lost confidence in Canelo's ability because he looked so bad in the Lara fight. Erislandy Lara made him look slow, made him look extremely flat-footed. He actually added pages to the blueprint that Mayweather had already created. Now, let me give you the good news when it comes to Gennady Golovkin. Golovkin is a great pressure fighter. When I say he's a great pressure fighter, I mean Golovkin was able to do something against Willie Monroe that Manny Pacquiao could not do or would not do against Floyd Mayweather. As you guys seen in the clip at the beginning of this video, Willie Monroe, he said something very interesting. He said that Golovkin is great at controlling range. That means cutting the distance. That means cutting off the ring. Whenever you see a boxer versus a puncher, and the boxer's back is constantly against the ropes, that means the pressure fighter is applying a lot of pressure and cutting off the ring. We've seen this in this fight. We also seen this in the Kovalev versus Bernard Hopkins fight. I knew in the first minute of that fight, Hopkins was in trouble because his back was already against the ropes, and Hopkins has great foot movement. He's usually in the center of the ring controlling the fight, ring generalship, right? But in the Kovalev fight, Hopkins' back was always against the ropes. That is courtesy of Golovkin's, or Kovalev, I should say, his ability to control range and close the gap. So Golovkin is a great pressure fighter. Golovkin is a beast. He really is. I mean, he has unbelievable power and he knows how to cut off the ring. Now, here's the bad news. The bad news is something else Willie Monroe said in that same interview, which is something that I picked up on when I was watching the fight. Because as I was watching the fight, I noticed first Willie Monroe, he was moving around the ring. But what makes Willie Monroe a pretty smart fighter is he's able to switch from plan A to plan B. And that's what we've seen. He seen right away the foot movement wasn't working. So then he said, you know what? Maybe I should just fight this dude close quarters. And that's what he did. And believe it or not, when he fought that way, he had a lot more success. Once again, going back to my prediction video, I told you guys there is two ways to beat Gennady Golovkin. One way is to have great foot movement, but also you have to combine that with great inside work as well. You have to be able to smother his punches, right? And I said in that video, of course, someone like Andre Ward comes to mind. That type of style would give Golovkin problems. So we've seen a little bit of this in this fight. Willie Monroe, he said in this interview, he said, I noticed Golovkin, he's good at controlling range, but he's not comfortable fighting at close quarters. And as I was watching the fight live, this is what I was telling people that was sitting around me. I was like, wow, do you notice Willie Monroe is actually doing a lot better when he fights on the inside as opposed to when he's moving around the ring? And as we've seen in this fight, specifically in the fourth round, we've seen Willie Monroe landing a lot of punches on Golovkin. We've seen him catching him with great body shots, with uppercuts. And I have to give the crowd that was there, because it was a pro-Golovkin crowd, I have to give them a lot of props because they were really showing a lot of respect for Willie Monroe. Every time Willie Monroe rallied back and caught Golovkin with uppercuts, you heard the crowd, the oohs and the ahs. There was a certain level of concern that you could feel in the arena. There was a lot of respect in that arena for the heavy underdog, Willie Monroe. What made this rally so impressive for Willie Monroe is the fact that Willie Monroe hardly had any knockouts on his record. He had less than half the amount of knockouts that Golovkin had, which obviously suggests that Golovkin was in a ring with a guy who had no power. And yet, Willie Monroe was able to get Golovkin's respect. Now, I'm just saying, guys, I mean, we really have to think about this. Imagine if Willie Monroe actually had power. If he was able to be that successful with no power, imagine if Willie Monroe had power. Imagine if he had physical strength in his body and he had power in terms of punching power. Wouldn't you guys say it would be a totally different fight? It would be a totally different fight. This is what I noticed when I was watching this fight, guys. First of all, after the second round, it looked like the fight was over. You have to give a lot of credit to Willie Monroe coming back from that second round and turning it into an actual fight. This is how the fight looked to me. You could see there was a massive power deficit in this fight because Willie Monroe, like Martin Murray, was able to hit Gennady Golovkin basically at will. In fact, that's all people were talking about in the arena, including HBO. HBO's Max Kellerman. He got hit too much, right? I had guys that were telling me before this fight how much of a beast Golovkin was. After this fight, They were coming over to me saying, man, Dante, Golovkin, he got hit too much. He kind of got exposed a little bit in this fight, Dante. These are guys that used to argue me up and down on how invincible Golovkin was, but not after this fight. You know, Golovkin made a very interesting admission in the post-press conference when he said there's no competition at 160. That's basically what he said. He pretty much admitted that he was the king of a very weak division. So if he acknowledges this, and once again, he can't get Cotto in the ring, he can't get Canelo in the ring, why is this man not fighting against Erislandy Lara or an Andre Ward? Let's first start with Erislandy Lara. Now, I don't want to hear any ridiculous mess like nobody wants to see him fight against Lara, because we just witnessed everybody watch him fight against a relatively unknown Willie Monroe. There's no way you're going to sit here and try to convince me that Willie Monroe is a bigger name than Erislandy Lara. You can't even use the style excuse. You can't pull the style card and say, oh, nobody likes his style and this and that. No, because Willie Monroe's style is very similar to Erislandy Lara's style. In fact, they're both Cuban and they're both southpaws. So you can't even use that excuse. If Golovkin was willing to fight against Willie Monroe, why would he not fight against Erislandy Lara? I mean, you guys could sit over here and say, oh, he'll destroy him. Oh, he'll destroy him. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, why was he quick to get in the ring with Willie Monroe, but not quick to get in the ring with Erislandy Lara? And I talked to Abel Sanchez, who, by the way, Abel Sanchez, he believes that Willie Monroe is a bigger star and a bigger name than Erislandy Lara. Keep in mind, he didn't make any additional excuses that I know fans will try to make. He didn't say, oh, there's a problem with the promoters and this and that. He didn't say any of that. He simply said that he thought Willie Monroe was bigger than Erislandy Lara. Now, this is pure speculation, but I believe the reason why Golovkin is not too interested in fighting against Erislandy Lara because he knows about the Cuban pedigree that Erislandy Lara has. Not only that, but Golovkin, he spars with a very good Cuban fighter. And let's just say that Cuban fighter, he gives Gennady Golovkin that work in the ring because I had the opportunity to watch them spar. Okay? So I truly believe Golovkin, he understands the type of amateur pedigree that Lara has. And he truly respects Lara's style. He believes that that would be a difficult style to go up against. Because what other reason would you fight Adama, Marco Antonio Rubio, Willie Monroe, but not fight Erislandy Lara? Like I said, you can't even use the style excuse anymore because Willie Monroe has a style that is very similar to Lara's style, right? Now I go on to Andre Ward. Now keep in mind, guys, I would like to see Golovkin fight against Cotto Canelo winner. I would like to see that, and I do think that Golovkin should fight them first. But what I'm saying is, if he cannot get one of those guys, the natural thing to do is get in the ring next with either Erislandy Lara or Andre Ward. Especially considering the fact that Andre Ward is pound for pound, top 5, one of the best fighters in the world. It doesn't really matter if people want to try to take him out, say he's inactive, because as soon as he gets right back to fighting, he'll be exactly where he was. You can't take that away from him. But regardless, we know that Andre Ward is the best opponent that Golovkin could fight. We already know that. That's closest to his weight. Now, for the fans that try to say, oh, I don't want Golovkin to fight the best fighter because I don't like the way that guy fights. Let me just say this first of all. If everyone was able to use that excuse to avoid an opponent, do you know we would get none of the fights we want to see? I mean, don't you guys realize that even a good slick boxer, he could use that same excuse. He could say, oh, I don't want to fight Golovkin because he's too flat-footed. He's too easy for me. I want more of a challenge. I want someone who's going to force me to think. Somebody who's flat-footed and easy to hit. I don't want to fight anyone like that. That doesn't excite me. I need someone who is going to really challenge me. I don't want to fight a Canelo. That's too easy, right? I mean, you guys have to understand something. If we are using this excuse, I don't want to fight that guy just because I don't like the way he fights. Can you imagine if every fighter used that excuse? I mean, imagine if they start doing this in other sports, like the NFL. You could choose what football team you want to play against in the Super Bowl. When there's a football team that has a great defense, you're like, oh, no. We don't like playing those teams with good defense. Give us the most offensive football team to play against. Do you guys see how ridiculous that sounds? Now, something else that doesn't make sense at all. When fans say we don't want Golovkin to fight against Andre Ward because he's boring, because he's this, because he's that, let me give you the clear translation. Translation, I don't want to see Golovkin lose to Andre Ward. Just like I didn't want to see Donaire lose to Guillermo Rigo. Just like I didn't want to see Manny Pacquiao lose to Floyd Mayweather. I mean, the excuse is ridiculous because they say Andre Ward, his style is boring. He's a boring fighter. If that's the case, weren't you guys calling Floyd Mayweather boring for the last 5 years? More people call Floyd Mayweather boring than they do Andre Ward. So if that's the case, why did you guys want to see Pacquiao fight Floyd Mayweather for the last 6 years? I thought you didn't like to see your fighter get in the ring with someone that's boring. Oh, I get it. Only if your fighter has a chance to win, then it's all good, right? Because when they thought Manny had a chance of beating the boring-ass Floyd Mayweather, it was okay to fight a boring fighter. But if that boring fighter, or quote-unquote boring fighter, has a chance of knocking out or beating my favorite fighter, oh, we don't want to watch it. I mean, imagine if Sonny Liston said he wasn't going to fight Muhammad Ali because he has a boring style. Imagine if Hagler said he wasn't going to fight against Sugar Ray Leonard because all he's going to do is move in the ring. Imagine if Sandy Saddler said he wasn't going to fight against Willie Pep. These are considered some of the greatest fights in boxing's history. So that kills that ridiculous ass excuse. Let's see Golovkin step up in competition. Hopefully he gets Cotto Canelo winner. But if he doesn't, let's see him step up in competition and start fighting some A, B level fighters. That's all I got. I'm on to the next one.